HGTV fans thought they knew exactly where Egypt Sherrod stood. She was one of the network's most familiar faces. She had the design eye, the real estate knowledge, the family story, the chemistry with her husband Mike Jackson, and the kind of polished confidence HGTV usually loves. So when news broke that Married to Real Estate was ending, a lot of viewers had one reaction. Wait, what happened? Because from the outside, Egypt did not look like someone whose HGTV journey was supposed to end quietly. She looked like someone HGTV should have been building around. And that is why the word fired started spreading so fast. But the truth is more complicated than one dramatic headline. This is not just the story of Egypt Sherrod losing a show. This is the story of how HGTV changed, how a fan-favorite couple got caught in the middle, and how Egypt may now be entering a chapter even bigger than the one the network left behind. Before the cancellation, Egypt Sherrod was not just another home renovation personality. She had already built a career long before Married to Real Estate became part of HGTV's lineup. She came from radio, real estate, hosting, business, and design. That mattered because Egypt did not feel like someone pretending to know the industry for television. She felt like someone who had actually lived it. She knew what buyers feared. She knew what sellers ignored. She knew how families dreamed about homes that felt out of reach. And she knew how to explain real estate in a way that felt warm, direct, and practical. That was always one of her strongest qualities. Egypt was not just selling pretty rooms. She was selling possibility. Then came Married to Real Estate. The show paired Egypt with her husband, builder Mike Jackson, and the format seemed almost perfect for HGTV. They helped families find homes in Atlanta area neighborhoods they loved, then used smart renovations to turn those homes into something personal. But the show was more than kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, and paint colors. The real appeal was Egypt and Mike themselves. Their marriage felt lived in. Their banter felt natural. Their disagreements never felt overly manufactured. Their family life gave the show heart. And for many HGTV viewers, that made Married to Real Estate stand out in a crowded lineup. It was not just another renovation show. It had a sense of identity. That is why the cancellation felt so surprising. After 4 seasons, the show came to an end, and fans immediately started asking why. Was it ratings? Was it money? Was it HGTV changing direction? Was there something behind the scenes that viewers were not being told? The answer appears to be less about Egypt being personally rejected and more about HGTV going through a wider shift. In recent years, HGTV has been changing its programming strategy. Shows that once seemed safe have suddenly disappeared. Familiar names have lost series. Fan-favorite formats have been paused, canceled, or replaced. And when that happens across a network, it usually points to something bigger than one host. It suggests executives are rethinking costs, audience demand, production priorities, and what kind of content they believe will work next. That does not make the cancellation less painful, but it does change the meaning of what happened. Egypt Sherrod was not some unknown figure HGTV quietly pushed aside because she had no value. She was a proven talent. She had hosted major shows. She had built trust with viewers. She had credibility outside television. And she had a real business beyond the network. That is exactly why fans were confused. Because when a star like Egypt loses a show, viewers do not just see a cancellation. They see a signal. They wonder if HGTV is moving away from the kind of shows that made people loyal in the first place. They wonder if warmth, expertise, and family-centered renovation are being replaced by cheaper, louder, faster content. They wonder if HGTV still understands what its longtime audience actually wants. And with Married to Real Estate, those questions became even louder. Because Egypt and Mike were not surrounded by scandal. They were not known for chaotic drama. They were not the kind of reality TV couple built on constant fighting. Their appeal was the opposite. They were aspirational, but still grounded. They were successful, but still relatable. They showed marriage, family, business, and design in a way that felt positive. And for many fans, that was exactly what HGTV needed more of, not less. That is why the cancellation hit differently. It made people feel like no show was safe. But here's the twist. Egypt Sherrod did not disappear. And that may be the most important part of the whole story. After Married to Real Estate ended, Egypt and Mike made it clear that their story was not over. They still had Indigo Road Realty. They still had design projects. They still had their podcast. They still had business momentum. And most importantly, they still had an audience that wanted to see what they would do next. That is something networks sometimes underestimate. HGTV can cancel a show, But it cannot cancel the connection viewers feel with a personality they trust. And Egypt has spent years building that trust. She is not just the host of one HGTV show. She is a real estate broker. She is a designer. She is an entrepreneur. She is a speaker. She is a media personality. She is a wife and mother who made her family part of her public brand without turning them into a circus. So when one door closed, she already had other doors opening. That brings us to the biggest update. Egypt Sherrod and Mike Jackson are now working on 2 new shows. One is called Home Abroad with Egypt and Mike. The other is called Deserving Design. And that detail changes the whole narrative. Because suddenly, this is not a story about Egypt being finished. It is a story about Egypt moving forward. Home Abroad sounds like a major expansion from what fans saw on Married to Real Estate. Instead of staying only in one local renovation world, Egypt and Mike are taking their love of homes, culture, architecture, and lifestyle into a bigger international setting. That could allow viewers to see a new side of them. Egypt has always had curiosity, taste, and a strong point of view. Mike brings the builder's eye, the adventure, and the practical side. Together, that format could feel fresh without losing what people already loved about them. Then there is Deserving Design. That title alone suggests something very aligned with Egypt's brand. Giving back, helping people, using design not just to make a room beautiful, but to change how someone feels in their own life. If Married to Real Estate showed what Egypt and Mike could do for home buyers, Deserving Design may show what they can do for people who truly need transformation. And that could be powerful. This is why the HGTV Fired Egypt storyline does not tell the whole truth. Yes, her HGTV show ended. Yes, fans were disappointed. Yes, the cancellation was shocking. But Egypt Sherrod's career was never fully dependent on HGTV. That may be the part that makes this story so interesting. HGTV gave her a platform, but she brought her own foundation. And when someone has a foundation that's strong, a canceled show does not mean the end. It can become a reset. It can become a chance to own the next chapter in a bigger way. For HGTV, the cancellation still raises questions. Did the network underestimate how much viewers cared about Egypt and Mike? Did they move too quickly during a programming shakeup? Did they sacrifice personality and trust in search of something cheaper or newer? Those are questions fans will keep asking, because Married to Real Estate was not just content. It represented something HGTV viewers often say they miss: a show with real expertise, a couple with believable chemistry, a family dynamic that felt positive, a renovation format that was beautiful without feeling empty, and a host who knew how to educate without talking down to people. That combination is not easy to replace. So even if HGTV believed the cancellation made business sense, it still left a hole for many fans. But Egypt's comeback shows something important. Sometimes a network decision looks like a setback in the moment, but later becomes the thing that pushes a star into a more exciting lane. For Egypt and Mike, this next chapter could give them more freedom, more range, more control over the stories they tell, and possibly a bigger audience beyond the regular HGTV crowd. That is why fans should not look at this as the end of Egypt Sherrod. They should look at it as the moment the story changed direction. She was not erased. She was redirected. And in entertainment, redirection can be more powerful than staying comfortable. The real question now is not whether Egypt can survive after HGTV canceled Married to Real Estate. The real question is whether HGTV will regret letting that show go. Because if Home Abroad and Deserving Design connect with viewers, the conversation will shift fast. People will no longer ask, "What happened to Egypt Sherrod?" They will ask, "Did HGTV let one of its best talents walk into a bigger opportunity?" And that may be the biggest twist of all. Egypt Sherrod's HGTV chapter may have ended, but her television story is clearly not over. In fact, it may just be getting more interesting. So, what do you think? Did HGTV make a mistake by ending Married to Real Estate? Or was this cancellation actually the push Egypt and Mike needed for something bigger? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more updates on HGTV stars, shocking cancellations, and the future of your favorite home renovation shows, make sure to subscribe before you go.